The topic of archaeoastronomy could take a complete lecture. These videos attempt to outline the subject. The learning goal of this video is to understand that astronomy has been a part of the human experience since the dawn of mankind. For about 200 million years, people survived by hunting. Around 600,000 years ago, larger animals was accomplished by social groups of about 20 to 30 people. The Lascaux cave of Paleolithic paintings contains more than 1,500 pictures of animals, and all of them are around 17,000 years old. Dr. Rappengluck has called the cave paintings in Lascaux a map of the prehistoric cosmos. On the right, Rappengluck identified the bull, birdman, and bird on a stick to represent the summer triangle Vega, Deneb, and Altair. He also identified a pattern consistent with the Pleiades star cluster above the shoulder of a picture of a bull. Spatially, in relation to the Pleiades, the constellation of Taurus, the bull, would be where the bull is. This suggests that mankind's identification of this part of the sky stretches back thousands of years. Other researchers argue against these speculations, saying that the pictures are taken out of context and that there is no evidence of cognitive continuity through the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, spanning about 7,000 years, that would bring this particular sky map through to the ancient classical Greek area. In the 1970s, Alexander Marshak and other researchers interpreted the various Paleolithic and Mesolithic most portable objects that bear engraved or painted series of dots or lines as accurate lunar observations or solar observations. His argument here is not based on just counting the signs, but on what he called microscopic analysis. The interpretation of the markings on various artifacts as notational systems rests on the hypothesis of a slow accumulation of these marks, which correlate with lunar or solar motion. In this one, he interpreted this bone plate from about 30,000 years ago from France to represent the waxing and waning moon positions in a serpentine form. The oldest evidence of systematic observational astronomy is at the site in Egyptian Sahara. The Napta standing stones are believed to have a solstice alignment in the summer. And it should also be noted that the very first timekeeping devices were probably gnomons, which is a vertical stick or pillar, and it's just stuck upright in the ground, and the shadow gave us an indication of the time of day. The first great empire was the Sumerian Empire around 3500 BC. The Sumerians had writing, they had clay tablets. Some of them survived to this very day, and the ancient Sumerians used a base 12 system instead of a base 10. So we think this is why we're getting to having 360 degrees in a circle. So this seems somewhat natural, as 12 is the number of finger segments, 3 for each finger, that you can count with one's thumb. So the moon goes through one full cycle of phases in about 29.5 days. That leaves you a little over 12 lunar cycles in a year. So the year was split up into 12 segments. Sumerians also developed a rudimentary system of astrological divination for the use of foreseeing the future of the city-state and battle, but was not for predicting personal futures. It is commonly accepted that Stonehenge recorded the rising and setting positions of the sun, moon, at the height of each season. In addition, the oldest stone at the site, called the heel stone, was placed at the entry of Stonehenge in a position that, sighting it from the center of the monument, points directly to the summer solstice. It's also been suggested that the outer series of holes could have acted as a computer to predict lunar eclipses. This use is the most advanced stage of Neolithic astronomy, and it is still very much debated among archaeoastronomers. According to Wikipedia, the Great Trilithon, the encompassing horseshoe arrangement of the 5 central trilithons, the heel stone, and the embanked avenue, are aligned to the sunset on the winter solstice and opposing sunrise of the summer solstice. A natural form of the land at the monument's location follows this line, and it may have inspired the construction. The excavated remains of cold animal bones suggest that people might have gathered at Stonehenge for the winter rather than the summer. Further astronomical associations and the precise astronomical significance of the site for its people are a matter of speculation and debate. The megalithic passage tomb at Newgrange was built around 3200 BC, and a shaft of light shines through the roof box over the entrance of the door and penetrates to the passage in the upper chamber. This dramatic event lasts about 17 minutes between the 19th to the 23rd of December. The sun enters the passage through a specially contrived opening known as the roof box, directly above the main entrance. Although solar alignments are not uncommon among passage graves, Newgrange is one of the few to contain additional roof box feature. This alignment is such that the roof box is above the passage entrance and the light hits the floor of the inner chamber. Around 2500 BC, Babylonians and Egyptians built obelisks that cast shadows as the sun moved across the sky. The shadow formed a kind of sundial, enabling citizens to divide the day into two parts, indicating noon. A year could be determined as the passage of time between successive longest and shortest days, when the shadow at noon was longest or shortest of the year. Marks around the base of the monument would show further time divisions. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, just outside Cairo, was built for the pharaoh Khufu in 2560 BC by a huge team of dedicated laborers. It took them over 20 years to haul the 6 million tons of limestone into this classic shape. The Great Pyramid is not rough-hewn or fabricated monument as common for buildings living 45,000 years ago, but instead it is very precisely built object, and the most basic geometric feature is the angles that are almost exactly 90 degrees. The next geometric feature is that two of the opposite base edges are aligned exactly along the north-south axis to a 1 to 1/30th of a degree precision. In Egyptian mythology, the direction of the rising sun in the east and the setting sun in the This Nebular sky disk is every few hundred years in Mesopotamia, civilizations were conquered. However, much of their culture was preserved. By 2000 BC, the empire was named Babylon, and the Babylonian astronomical records exist today, preserved on clay tablets, despite the Babylonian Empire being overrun by the Hittites in 1595 BC, and the Assyrians in 1100 BC, and the Persians in 539 BC. Since this stellar map describes planetary conjunction, which is a unique pattern of positions of the planets concentrated within a defined sector of the sky, it therefore contains information unmistakably related to the fixed point in time. It is used to calculate this as May 1535 BC. So this is ancient Egypt still. This sundial dates to Abu Simbel was built by Pharaoh Ramses II between 1279 and 1213 BC to celebrate his domination of Nubia and his piety to the gods, principally Amun-Re, Ra-Hoor-Khati, and Ta, as well as his own deification. It's about 250 kilometers southeast of the city of Aswan. The original temple was positioned on the bank of the Nile, but it was raised up to avoid flooding. There are about 3,600 known grooves of stones scattered throughout the island of Gotland. 700 are scored directly from the limestone bedrock, and the rest are found on about 800 stones. The length of the grooves varies from about half a meter to 1 meter. They are about 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters wide and 1 centimeter to 10 centimeters in depth. The grooves on a stone are not parallel. Instead, they are oriented in several directions, some grooves crossing other grooves. Yet on any particular stone, the grooves are not randomly oriented, but seem to follow a prescribed orientation, although it varies from groove to groove. The most important feature appears to be the grand alignment when looked over the entire island. A recent study showed that 1,256 grooves showed that they are aligned with what certain positions of celestial bodies, apparently the sun or the moon. Most of them are oriented east to west, although the island itself is oriented north to south. Most of archaeoastronomy sites are more geographically confined than these stones. Were the creators nomads that wandered the island and created new stones wherever they went? The reason for so many of these stones scattered across such a huge area has been completely lost in time. To the ancient Egyptians, the god Re was the bringer of light, and other incarnations, the creator of the universe. He is among the oldest gods and were created by the Egyptians during a nearly 4,000 year span of their civilization. This magnificent temple at Karnak celebrates this unity through its enormous pillars designed in harmony with the sun and stars over a period of 2,000 years. Dr. Sten Odenwald wrote the following: built by ancient Egyptians in several episodes of construction or enlargement from 2055 to BC to 395 AD, the earliest access included the great hypostyle hall built by Ramses II on the east to the west alignment. Sir Norman Lockyer proposed a midsummer sunset alignment along the main axis of the great temple of Amun-Re Karnak. Was by some accounts the temple of Luxor may have been no less than 4 well-defined alignment changes involving stars. Unlike solar alignments, which can generally last for thousands of years intact, stellar alignments are much more critical because of the precession of the equinoxes and last only a few hundred years. Lockyer's measurement showed that several Karnak temples had been altered over the century to match the precessional changes in their aligned stars. During the time near this winter solstice, December 21st, the azimuth angle of the rising sun is similar to the azimuth angle of the main axis of the temple. So near this date, sunlight from the rising sun will pass along the main corridor of the temple from the lower right southwest entrance to the top left northern exit. Around 800 BC, precise sundials were built in Egypt. For example, an Egyptian shadow clock of green schist, similar to the one reconstructed here, consisted of a straight base with a raised crosspiece at one end. The base, on which was inscribed the scale of 6 time divisions, is placed at the east-west direction with the crosspiece at the east in the morning and west in the afternoon, and the shadow of the crosspiece on the base indicates the time. Throughout this time, India had a number of astronomers also gathering information about the universe. Beginning at the 1st century, it seems clear that the Indian astronomers recognized that the stars are the same as the sun, only farther away. Verses mention that the night sky is full of suns, and when our sun goes below the horizon, thousands of suns take its place. This is an incredible scientific leap in thought. The Earth was at the time considered to be spherical, and various astronomers attempted to measure its circumference. Interestingly, though, the sun was widely believed to be the center of the universe. In fact, we think that their belief that the sun was the center of the universe dates back to maybe even as early as 3000 BC in the Vedic writings. Pre-Greek astronomy seems to be driven by three things: timing for agriculture, timing for religious or other social events, and that beliefs that heavenly phenomena are directly related to events on Earth. During this time, various cultures developed timekeeping, were able to predict solstices, recognize some star patterns, including making constellation patterns. They observed eclipses and were able to predict lunar eclipses, and they observed and predicted lunar phases.